Okay, welcome to this explainer. We are looking at what is literally a geopolitical earthquake today. After a devastating 107-day war that just rattled the entire globe, the United States and Iran have officially signed a historic, but honestly highly fragile memorandum of understanding. It's an agreement designed to halt the kinetic conflict, but as we all know, signing a document and agreeing on reality are two very different things.
Right out of the gate, you can see the starkly different priorities of the two nations using their own words. For US President Donald Trump, the immediate victory is economic. He emphatically posted, "Let the oil flow." But then you have Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, whose priority is clearly regional security and their proxy network, stating that ending the war in Lebanon is an inseparable part of the deal. It perfectly illustrates the complexity and the vastly differing motives behind this temporary truce.
Okay, let's dive into this. The 14-point framework. What exactly got signed electronically by President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf? Mediated heavily by Pakistan and Qatar. Here are the officially confirmed points. We're talking an immediate, permanent ceasefire on all fronts. It mandates lifting the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports and reopening the absolutely crucial Strait of Hormuz within 30 days. And crucially, it sets a strict 60-day window for intense negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, while Iran formally reaffirms its commitment under the Non-Proliferation Treaty to not produce nuclear weapons. Moving on to confirmed facts versus unconfirmed claims. While that baseline text provides some serious relief, media spin and unconfirmed claims from both sides are creating two very different realities that we really need to untangle.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the severe disconnect regarding $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets. The U.S. official stance, echoed by Vice President Vance, guarantees absolutely zero sanctions relief until Iran demonstrates full compliance. But over in Tehran, Iranian hardline media insists the U.S. is required to release half of those funds, $12 billion, before the 60-day final negotiations even begin. It's a massive contradiction playing out in real time.
And guys, that financial disconnect gets even crazier. Iranian media published a purported draft claiming the US and its allies agreed to provide a staggering $300 billion reconstruction fund to repair the damages of the 107-day war. Washington firmly rejected this. President Trump directly dismissed the report of this $300 billion fund as fake news. So just keep in mind, this massive financial concession remains an unconfirmed, highly disputed media claim.
So, what does this all mean for us? Let's look at the global economic impact. Why did global markets react so aggressively to this signing? Well, literally the second this agreement was announced, global oil prices tumbled, with Brent crude dropping below $84 a barrel. During the war, the global economy faced what some analysts called the most severe energy crisis in modern history. So this price drop, it signals massive, immediate relief for an energy market that was just in a state of absolute panic. To put that into perspective, that economic relief is anchored entirely to this waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. This is a critical maritime corridor. Literally 1/5 of all global oil shipments pass through here. By lifting the U.S. naval blockade and reopening the strait within 30 days, the MOU essentially unclogs the main artery of global trade. The physical unblocking of this choke point is the engine driving the economic recovery we are seeing. Next up, Middle East stability and the Lebanon caveat. Because while the markets are breathing a huge sigh of relief, the geopolitical reality on the ground remains highly precarious. Let's look at the stances. Iran has made a strict, unbending demand that its ally Hezbollah is protected, stating any attack on Lebanon is a direct violation of the MOU. But right across the border, Israel firmly states it is not a party to this US-Iran deal and is absolutely not bound by it to withdraw its military forces from Lebanese territory. In fact, following the MOU's announcement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came right out and unequivocally stated that Israeli forces will remain in Lebanon, Gaza, and Syria for as long as necessary. This brilliantly, or maybe terrifyingly, illustrates that the proxy conflicts fueling decades of regional instability remain completely unresolved by this document. Which brings us to the now what? The 60-day clock. We have to explicitly state that this MOU is merely an interim pause, setting the stage for intense negotiations. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the clock is officially ticking. Day 1 marks the formal signing in Switzerland. By day 30, the U.S. naval blockade must be lifted and the Strait of Hormuz fully reopened to global shipping. And then, by day 60, the window for negotiating a final binding agreement on Iran's nuclear program concludes. This strict timeline is going to act as a massive stress test to see whether Washington and Tehran can adhere to the framework without the whole thing collapsing.
But as they enter these 60 days of talks, look at the major blind spots deliberately excluded from the agenda. Discussions on Iran's conventional ballistic missile program, as well as its support for regional proxy groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, are entirely off the table. The focus is strictly on nuclear enrichment and sanctions relief. Actually, scratch that. Leaving those massive security issues out of the talks pretty much guarantees that the underlying regional tensions will just continue to boil.
So that leaves us with the million-dollar question. Looking at the disputed funds, the completely unresolved proxy wars, and these strict timelines, is this a lasting peace that will reshape the Middle East, or is it just a 60-day pause before the conflict ignites again? What happens to global energy markets when that 60-day clock runs out? It's a fragile truce, and the whole world is watching to see if it holds. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer to unpack the facts behind the headlines.